Statewide contact tracing efforts now underway after Binghamton's mayor tests positive for COVID-19 hours after an event in Syracuse. Where Binghamton's mayor went before heading to a hospital and why that could bring more potential exposures. Plus, cases spiking at Syracuse University. New consequences now in place for students who break pandemic guidelines.
You're watching NBC3 News at 6.
We continue to follow breaking news tonight. The mayor of Binghamton testing positive today for COVID-19 hours after attending an event in Syracuse. Good evening. I'm Megan Coleman. Matt is off tonight. Mayor Rich David taking part in yesterday's news conference of New York State mayors calling for federal aid amid the pandemic. 11 people took to the podium to call for the federal government for another stimulus package. 3 members of our news team were there as well. They are now quarantining and getting tested. Contact tracing efforts now underway across the state. Mayors from the Southern Tier, Capital Region, and Long Island gathering at Syracuse City Hall. And tonight, some of them have told us they are quarantining and getting COVID-19 tests done. So far, the Binghamton mayor is the only one with a positive test. We know these mayors were in Central New York for a meeting in Skaneateles. That meeting happened after the press conference at Syracuse City Hall. When Mayor Rich David was in Syracuse, he felt fine. It wasn't until afterwards, when in Skaneateles, that he started feeling sick and went to Auburn Community Hospital. He did not take part in the meeting in Skaneateles. Connor White begins our live team coverage with reaction from Onondaga County leaders. Connor?
Megan, the Onondaga County executive says that the contact tracing efforts are underway right now. Now, we have heard from the mayor of Fayetteville and the mayor of Syracuse that they have been contacted by Onondaga County Health Department officials, though the county executive says that he doesn't quite know at the moment or can't say exactly where the investigation is at this time. Now, as you mentioned, 3 members of our CNY Central team were at the mayor's press conference and conducted a one-on-one interview with the Binghamton mayor. They're following proper protocols at this time, but the county health department has not contacted them yet. About hours after news broke publicly this morning of the Binghamton mayor's positive test result, which he received late Wednesday. McMahon says in 24 hours, everyone should receive a call.
You will have times where it's a very complicated case. This is very complicated. This is 10, 15 mayors, different parts of the country, or the state, excuse me. So that a little bit more complicated than your typical contact tracing effort. So I think important is the health commissioners need to be on the same page on what the recommendation is to the mayors.
Now, multiple people in connection with this event are taking self-imposed precautionary quarantine measures, including the mayor of Syracuse, Ben Walsh, though no mandatory quarantine orders have been handed out just yet. Reporting from Syracuse, I'm Connor White.
Yeah, waiting on those COVID test results. Connor, thank you for your reporting tonight. Our live team coverage continues with our Tony Black in Skaneateles. And Tony, what's the connection there?
So we're told Binghamton Mayor Richard David attended lunch here at the Sherwood Inn in Skaneateles yesterday, where he started to feel ill after attending that press conference with 9 other mayors throughout the state. Now, a spokesperson for Mayor David told us they do believe he went into the hotel. 2 managers here at the Sherwood Inn I spoke with say that he was on the property for less than 45 minutes. The managers say he was eating at the restaurant when he started to not feel well. They say he had a medical emergency, which prompted their staff to call 911 and complete an incident report. The mayor was taken by ambulance to a hospital in Auburn, where he later tested positive for COVID-19. We're told by another source that the Binghamton mayor was having lunch with the mayor of Schenectady, Gary McCarthy. Syracuse Mayor Ben Walsh says Mayor David had already left by the time he arrived at the Sherwood Inn. We know that there was a scheduled private event that did take place after the mayor went to the hospital, but it is not clear who was in attendance. The hotel managers say the guests were wearing masks and distance throughout the space. The hotel says that at this point, the county has not reached out to them for any potential public exposures. We're being told that Broome County is leading the investigation and will reach out to other county health departments if there is an exposure. The hotel says that their staff takes their temperatures daily and also are always wearing masks and gloves when serving their guests. Reporting live in Skaneateles, I'm Tony Black.
Yeah, complicated contact tracing efforts, as the county executive alluded to, Tony, as they try to piece all this together. Thank you for your reporting tonight. Questions still remain, and we will continue to press for answers for you. Did the Binghamton mayor get tested before coming to Syracuse, and what kind of symptoms, if any, was he experiencing? Who decided to hold this event in person? We're going to stay on top of all of this and bring you any new developments tonight on NBC3 News at 11. Tonight, Louisiana residents still recovering from the devastation of a powerful hurricane that hit less than 2 months ago. Well, tonight they are bracing themselves again for another blow, this time from Hurricane Delta. Lake Charles under a mandatory evacuation order. And for one woman, her home was badly damaged in Hurricane Laura 6 weeks ago. Now evacuating is becoming an all too frequent occurrence for her.
It's just a lot. You know, it's emotionally, I think everybody is just battered and worn down right now. Really, the word is disbelief. Like, how could this be happening again?
Everything is just kind of starting to get back to normal when this storm was coming our way.
The storm expected to make landfall sometime tomorrow afternoon. This is the 6th storm Louisiana has dealt with during this record-breaking hurricane season. Wayne, it has been an active one over the last few months. This hurricane season, we've seen so many storms.
Oh, yeah, and especially Louisiana. And again, as that poor lady said, you know, Lake Charles, again, that area, same area that got walloped by Hurricane Laura back just 6 weeks ago. Here's the very latest 5 p.m. advisory Eastern time on Hurricane Delta, and it's now back up to a Category 3, 115-mile-an-hour sustained winds, and the track of Hurricane Delta, well, looks like it's going to be heading right on up towards Louisiana, specifically maybe Lake Charles or just east of Lake Charles. And it gets there tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow evening is probably a Category 2, maybe a low-end Category 3. But it's going to be bad news, and then it's going to work its way inland and start to die out. What's going on around here right now? Live triple Doppler radar brought to you by Falso Service Experts. A couple of sprinkles around here, especially western southern parts of Onondaga County. That is no big deal. Your Hoffman Grilling forecast for the next couple of hours. Thicker clouds around, nothing more than a couple of stray sprinkles, and the temperature around 53. Look outside, Stanislaus Sky Watch overlooking the city from our Regency Tower camera, and it's mostly cloudy. I'll be back to tell you about what does our weekend weather look like, and could we see any remnants from Hurricane Delta? That's coming up.
Wayne, thank you. Up next at 6 o'clock, monitoring a spike in COVID cases at Syracuse University. The stricter punishments in place for students who break pandemic guidelines. Welcome back to NBC3 News at 6. Live at the Syracuse University campus tonight, where school leaders continue to monitor a spike in positive COVID cases. And now they're rolling out a new initiative that would punish students who violate state guidelines. This comes after 65 students tested positive for COVID following off-campus gatherings, an increase of 20 cases since yesterday. Melanie Johnson has continuing coverage.
SU's Vice Chancellor Mike Haney expects more positive COVID-19 cases in the days ahead. The university's plan now is to stop the spread and to crack down on partying that they say is happening with a close-knit group of students. Effective immediately, any off-campus resident responsible for a gathering that violates school and state coronavirus guidelines will face consequences from SU's Judicial Board. The spike of COVID cases is linked to off-campus partying last Thursday that continued into the weekend. SU tells us the Dome will serve as a permanent place for students to get tested. 4,000 tests have been administered in the last 3 days. Right now, campus police are increasing patrols on Walnut and Euclid Avenues, along with other off-campus party spots. Vice Chancellor Mike Haney says there is zero evidence right now that these cases have spilled over into the Syracuse community.
It's a little bit of a crystal ball. That said, there are, 50 plus people on this campus right now who are, between the Barnes Center and the testing center, who are working aggressively to hunt down more instances of virus.
If a student is found guilty of violating health regulations off campus, they could face penalties ranging from disciplinary warnings to expulsion. Syracuse University says if they have to go remote, they are ready to do so. Reporting in Syracuse, I'm Melanie Johnson.
Mel, thank you. Still to come on NBC3 News at 6. A live look over the city for you tonight. We are looking ahead to Wayne's weekend outlook and some warmer weather for one of the days. Then tonight on NBC3 News at 11, continuing coverage of the possible COVID exposures at nearly a dozen state leaders. We hear from an infectious disease expert. Is there a need for more transparency from leaders? Michael Benny's here to tell us what's ahead on NBC3 News at 7.
Our breaking coverage continues at 7 o'clock. It may be the largest cross-jurisdictional contact tracing effort in New York State. Coming up tonight at 7 o'clock on NBC3, what we know about how far and wide the potential exposures may go after the mayor of Binghamton, who was in downtown Syracuse and Skaneateles yesterday, tests positive for COVID. Our breaking team coverage continues tonight on NBC3 News at 7.
At last night's vice presidential debate, moderator Susan Page asked the question also posed to President Trump. It has to do with peaceful transfer of power. There was no comment from the vice president, Pence. Christine Frizzell reports.
It was one of the many direct questions without a direct answer.
If Vice President Biden is declared the winner and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what would be your role and responsibility as vice president?
Senator, your party has spent the last 3.5 years trying to overturn the results of the last election. It's amazing.
Vice President Mike Pence not committing to a peaceful transition of power, instead pivoting to the decision by the FBI to surveil Trump campaign advisor Carter Page back in 2016.
When Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, the FBI actually spied on President Trump and my campaign.
These statements by Vice President Mike Pence at Wednesday night's debate echo what President Trump has been saying and tweeting about for years.
That includes in the last 48 hours. President Trump tweeting, Democrats got caught in a non-friendly transfer of government, accusing them of a coup.
But these people should be indicted. This was the greatest political crime in the history of our country, and that includes Obama and it includes Biden.
He's referring to a series of handwritten notes declassified this week by Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe that appear to say, approved by Hillary Clinton, a proposal by one of her foreign policy advisors to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal, claiming interference by the Russian security service. But former FBI Director James Comey maintains the surveillance operation and the Russia investigation itself were entirely justified.
The head of Trump's campaign was a grave counterintelligence threat to the United States of America because he was funneling information to a known Russian intelligence officer.
As for the refusal by both Trump and Pence to agree to a peaceful transition of power, some in Washington sounding alarm bells.
How can you not be concerned when a president and a vice president say they're not going to honor the will of the voters?
Vice presidential candidate Senator Kamala Harris saying it's President Trump who's trying to subvert our democracy with his claims of voter fraud and, quote, a rigged election.
Joe Biden has a deep, deep-seated commitment to fight for our democracy and to fight for the integrity of our democracy.
I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
And so
let's get a check in your forecast now. A live look at the Salmon River in Pulaski. And there you see the anglers out there. They've been pulling in some really big fish tonight. A perfect sport to social distance and take in all autumn in central New York has to offer. Wayne, we could just look at this image all night. It's so serene, incredibly peaceful to look at them out there.
Isn't that, huh? Boy, oh boy, you're right. Peaceful, serene, all of that. Now out here on the weather deck, we've had a little bit of a change in our weather over the past few minutes, Megan. We have started to get a couple of sprinkles. We've talked about that. This is no big deal. I think you're going to be fairly pleased with what we've got coming up for the weekend. Let's start out with what's going on right now, and then we'll talk about the weekend and even talk about next week and how Hurricane Delta may or may not affect us. Here's what's going on right now. Live triple Doppler radar brought to you by Falso Service Experts. A few sprinkles now working down through the Finger Lakes, through parts of central New York. We'll zero on in. And here we are here in Syracuse with a sprinkle or two here and there. These are going to be passing on through from a very weak disturbance during the overnight hours tonight. No big deal. Weather highlights as we make our way on into the weekend and even on into early next week. Minor disturbance tonight, like I just mentioned, couple of light showers or sprinkles. Roller coaster temperatures, which will feature something we've talked about for days, what should be a nice warm-up to at least start out the weekend. You'll see the 7-day here in a minute. Tropical remnants, yes, that's becoming what looks like more of a possibility now. Early next week, we get into some remnant moisture in the way of maybe some showers or a little bit of rain, as what will at that time be the remnants of Hurricane Delta, probably pushing off down towards south, but giving us a little bit of moisture. Forecast overnight tonight, partly to mostly cloudy, couple of light showers or sprinkles, low temperature 43. Pretty good looking Friday coming up, maybe a few extra clouds early on. Otherwise, a mix of sun and clouds. It'll turn milder, and the afternoon high 64. Let's talk about the drought monitor situation, because this is the very latest. And what's even more concerning now, even though some of us had a pretty good amount of rain yesterday and wind, of course, so that line of storms coming through, what's concerning, Lewis County down into at least northeastern parts of Oneida County, a good chunk of Herkimer County, that is now listed as a severe drought going on there. And then all of the tan area here, that includes much of the immediate central New York area and Finger Lakes, moderate drought conditions going on. Okay, how about fall foliage this weekend? You thinking of checking that out? Adirondacks, about 100% color change. Catskills, 75 to 100%. Most of the immediate central New York area, Finger Lakes, 75% color change or so. Here's that 7-day weather outlook. 64 for tomorrow. And then on Saturday, we'll start out partly sunny, then increasing clouds, maybe some late afternoon showers or thunderstorms. And we get enough sun. I'm still thinking we're mid-70s on Saturday. Sunday, clouds, sun, a little cooler, 63, which is about normal for this time of year. And then early next week, Monday, Tuesday, we could have a little bit of wet weather, the remnants of Delta passing off down to our south. Here's a look outside. Stanley Law Sky Watch overlooking the city from our Adirondack Furniture camera, and it's partly to mostly cloudy with a sprinkle. And that's the latest from the weather outside.
I'm Nico Tamurian, live in the Salmon River. We're going to talk about why these anglers are having a great day, but also the comparison to SU football when we come back. You're watching NBC3 News at 6.
On the alleged plot to kidnap Michigan's governor. What was the motive? We'll hear her reaction. Also, will there be a lifeline for the nation's airlines and their employees? The latest on the relief standoff when we see you back here tonight.
The Syracuse offense flowing like the mighty waters of a New York river. Good evening, I'm Nico Tamurian, live in the Salmon River. And I think the comparison is fair. You consider Syracuse's run game like the running waters we see here, and of course the raw power that we have here in the Salmon River of Pulaski. Consider the Orange exploding for 37 points in that win over Georgia Tech just last week. They're hoping to build on that when they had a combined 16 points all season before that. It's a great sign, but the running game has been huge, including freshman Sean Tucker. He never expected it, but he wants it to continue against Duke.
It was a good touchdown, a good run, but none of that would be possible without my old line and my guys up front to open up those holes for me to run through and block for me. And then, just after the touchdown, celebrate with my team. And then, eventually at the end of the day, we got to win. So everything was fun. And, throughout the time, we had fun with it. I said I didn't really think what was going to happen, but, just every day practicing, trying to get better, and then coming in and try to help my team win.
On the baseball field, it is win or go home for the New York Yankees. The Bronx Bombers in rough shape after the last two games against the top seed Tampa Bay. They lost, so in a best-of-5 series, that really puts you in a corner. So the Yankees need a win tonight. If they don't, their season is over. But if they win, they force the ever-exciting winner-take-all Game 5. I'll update you on that tonight on NBC3 News at 11. But back here to the Salmon River, why I'm here. First of all, this is paradise in central New York in October. Look at the scenery around me. You can't beat it. But also consider, even if you're not a fishing expert, you get to enjoy that scenery. But if you are an expert angler, this is the best time of the year for the salmon, not just in New York, but the entire region. And there's so much to do here while staying safe and socially distanced.
There's salmon in here, and there's coho. And then as you get into November, the first or second week in November, sometimes the steelhead fish start coming in. The water's still a little low, but the rain has helped. In the last 4 or 5 days have been fabulous for the fish. September was slow, but October has really turned into be really good.
Yeah, certainly you can't beat the scenery. I love it here so much. Now, I have to tell you, earlier I said I didn't catch a fish. I still haven't, but Megan, one swam into my leg. Still couldn't catch it. But I'm having a great time here anyway, live in the Salmon River. I'm Nico Tamurian.
You got to put honey on your fingers or something. Maybe it'll stick to you if you don't have a pole. Good luck out there, friend.
Nice.
All right, I'll see you later on. Thank you so much for joining us for NBC3 News at 6. I'm Megan Coleman. We'll see you back here tonight at 10 and 11.